Jones, curator of the FIDM Museum, and I am here live on Instagram for our collection conversation. Today we will be joined by Kevan Hall, who is a really good friend of FIDM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, and I'm just waiting for him to join us so we can both go live today. Let's see. I am watching. This is exciting. Now I know some of you who joined us last time realized that I got cut off right in the middle of a sentence, a big reveal about my favorite object in the FIDM Museum collection, and it's something that's part of the upcoming Sporting Fashion Outdoor Girls 1800 to 1960 exhibition and catalog. And sorry about that, because I actually forgot to set up my clock to watch the time. I have that today, and so I will be revealing that in our next collections conversation with Christina Johnson. But as you can see, we are now here live with Kevan Hall. Hi, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Great to see you, Kevin.
Thank you. You too.
Kevin, I'm Kevin with an I. You're Kevin. I'm Kevin with an A. You're Kevin with an I.
That's right. But we can be known as Kevin Kev today. You know.
Exactly.
So I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy design schedule to join us today. This is a brand new forum that the FIDM Museum has that is proving very successful, and we're talking about all sorts of things to do with the museum, but specifically with its collections and those really talented people who are connected with the museum in some way, either as a designer, as you are, as a historian, researcher, many different facets. And that's one of the things that I love about the FIDM Museum and the field of historic dress is that there are infinite numbers of topics. I mean, it can never be exhausted. So thank you for joining today. Now, first of all, I am going to give a brief bio about you. So you were born in Detroit, Michigan, and please stop me if I have anything wrong.
Okay.
Born in Detroit, Michigan, and I love that at age 7, you knew that you wanted to be a fashion designer. I think that's incredible because around the same time period, I too, at that age, wanted to go into fashion. Now, I didn't know that I could be a curator of fashion because I didn't realize that that existed. So for me, it was all about design as well. But I did not go that way. I don't even like to sew a button on if it falls off. So we definitely, ended up in our perfect professions for us. So you went to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising as a student in design. You're a very smart man. And of course, I went to FIDM as well for design. But I love you were there as a student in 1980. And the very first day of class, you met your sweetheart, Debbie.
I did, yeah.
You've now been married to for years.
Right. For many years we've been married with a couple of children, with 2 beautiful children, yeah.
Did you get married in 1980?
No, we got married in 1980.
Okay, so well, happy 40th anniversary to you this year.
Gosh.
It does go by fast. And I recommend remembering the date and getting a really good present.
This is a big one. This is a real big one. So you're right.
Exactly.
So you look back at those numbers. It really does tell my age. It really dates me. But anyway, I'm glad to still be standing.
Yeah, absolutely. That is right.
Yeah.
So the arts run in your family. You as a designer, your sister is an interior designer. Your brother is an actor. So you really have a very artistic family. Were your parents also very artistic?
Not particularly artistic. My dad, he owned a company that did like landscaping and grading, and that is grading in the landscaping world is where he had tons of tractors and 18-wheelers and these big machinery that would move the earth. And he helped to build this area in around the Detroit area called Bloomfield Hills and Birmingham, Michigan, which are like subdivisions. So as a young kid, I would go to work. I know how to drive a tractor, and I know how to drive some of the heavy machinery. But he had all this heavy machinery, and he would dig out the lakes and clear the land for the houses to go up. So it was like in conjunction with architects. And to that point, at one point, I thought I would be an architect because we were always working with architects as they were building out Bloomfield Hills.
I've never been to Detroit. I would really like to go because I've always wanted to visit the Henry Ford Museum.
Yes.
And one of our really fantastic, very generous supporters, Linda and Stephen Blahutsky, they're both from Detroit. So I hear about Detroit all the time, and it really kind of feels like a second museum home for me.
Right. They have a great museum. They got some incredible artifacts and beautiful collections there. I believe some of the wardrobe or the pieces that Miss Dodge wore are there. There's some really phenomenal pieces from the affluent automobile world patrons.
I do want to go someday, absolutely. It'd be so fabulous to go with you and Linda because you could both really give me the detail all about the city.
Yeah, it's a great city.
So you have worked as a consultant in the museum, in the motion picture world. Of course, we're located out here in the Hollywood area. Of course, none of us can really escape that really incredible field of dress, for the movie industry. Also, you worked in television and in front of the camera, even on Extreme Makeover, Inside Edition, Soap Talk, and even on Jane Pauley.
Right. Yeah, and did Fashion Police with Joan Rivers, which was a real hoot. I mean, Joan was phenomenal and as funny as, just incredibly funny, So it was great, great time working and doing that.
Right. So not only have you been married 40 years this year, you've also been in the field of fashion design for 40 years this year. So you really have some time to look back on and to see how both the fashion industry has changed and how you have changed as a designer. And I want to get into some of that with you. So just a quick rundown of your timeline. You established first Kevan Hall Couture, and that was an 11-year event for you with your company. And of course, you're very, very well known for evening wear and red carpet wear. I mean, when I think of you as a designer, I definitely, evening gowns and beautiful cocktail wear really comes to mind.
Right. It didn't really start out that way, though. Really, I started out when I launched my original collection back in the early 80s. I put together a collection that was really more sportswear driven, beautiful load-in green jackets with beautiful confetti printed blouses and double pleated trousers and just really sleek, phenomenally architectural looking pieces. As I started to present the collection to the various stores or whatever, I was trying to break into the majors, and the majors, said to me, this one owned, Perry Ellis has this real estate, Calvin Klein has this real estate, Ralph Lauren is in this, has all of this. So we really don't have much of an open to buy to, support your brand. But your dresses are great. I'll pick up a few of the dresses. So they picked up the dresses, bought the dresses. The dresses started to sell very well. Then I added a little bit of, dressier dresses and evening dresses, and it just began to grow and grow and grow. And then I, became known for dresses and then more specifically for evening wear. But that's not how I started. But I kind of circled back to the, more sporty kind of things now and at this point.
Right, and I can understand why, especially because except for maybe like the red carpets here in Hollywood for the Academy Awards, the Metropolitan Museum of Art with their red carpet, the red carpet world seems to really have kind of faded back a little bit. We're not as formal as we used to be, and we don't dress as formally as we used to. One of the things that I'm proud of is for all of the exhibition openings at the FIDM Museum, everybody invited seems to try to dress to the nines.
Yes.
And so it's nice to still see some of that happen.
Absolutely. I think it's important when I always try to say make an effort. If you're going to get up in the morning, if you're going to, you got to put on something. So put on something that's going to be, kind of great and kind of cool and make a statement. But to the evening piece, when you go to like a museum opening or when you go to the theater, I mean, I just think it's just a wonderful part of the experience to dress up.
Especially when it's a fashion-focused exhibition that you're going to.
Right, absolutely.
Right. You were also the creative director for Halston, an iconic American brand from 1998 through 2000, so for 3 years.
Yes.
Again, I think you were able to meld your architectonic and you have a very clean look. It's not loaded down with trimmings and gewgaws and things. It's a very clean, very strong silhouette, and I could see how you fit the Halston persona very well.
Right. Well, Halston, as a young designer, I feel like I cut my design teeth on Halston. He was one of my favorite designers, Halston, as well as Yves Saint Laurent. So I loved Yves Saint Laurent for his exuberance and for the excitement and for, I think one of the most incredible collections that he ever did was the Ballet Russe collection.
Right.
And all the fabulous, skirts with the rickrack, trimming and the beautiful peasant blouses and all the gorgeous coin accessories and that kind of thing.
Right.
So I love that exuberance. But then on the other hand, I love that clean, beautiful, sleek line of the Halston aesthetic, where it's very modern. It's still architectural, but in a kind of pulled back way. So for me to be able to step into that post, having as a young designer admiring Halston and then be able to step into that post, in 1997 was a pretty amazing thing. And one of the great things about it too was that, when I stepped there, a lot of the Halston team came back. So we had Gina, who was an incredible tailor. We had Maruccia, who, was an Italian woman that was experienced in flue or in, the soft chiffon, the soft dressing. She knew how to do that. So the design team in that workroom was like a dream, because I would, just do like a quick sketch or a quick croquis. And maybe I just sketched the front of the dress, and then I'd go, back to my office. And when I would go back in for the fittings, the back of the dress, I mean, it was just even more beautiful than the sketch even. I mean, because these skilled hands, it was a joy to work with these people.
So we are live here, and we've got the whole world watching. I'm sure all 8 billion at the same time. But if anybody has any questions for Kevin while we're going along, I am watching the feed here, and I will try to interject anything that our viewers might find of interest that I have not thought of to ask you. I love in 2011 you branched out into bridal wear. Which of course is a very, huge market, especially with the advent of so many different reality TV shows, such as Say Yes to the Dress. And I think it's interesting how that design world has stayed kind of true to a lot of the historical aspects of dress or grand red carpet that we don't have in our normal everyday life anymore.
Right, and that's the thing that was so great about the bridal is my concept there was to go from the red carpet to the white carpet. Mm-hmm. Basically take that concept of my evening wear that these, the actresses are wearing and put it, make it in beautiful, beautiful ivory and beautiful white and do it in laces. Because, I feel like that modern bride doesn't want to look like a cupcake. She wants to look like a movie star. I mean, don't we all want to look, handsome and beautiful like a movie star? Like we want to be on the silver screen. So that was the concept, to take these, red carpet dresses and then, of course, expand upon that and create a beautiful bridal collection.
Right, and that can be totally memorable for that couple's life. And something that is interesting is we are offered wedding gowns a lot, and we don't have room to take all of them. We have to be very selective. But it's heartening how invested women become in their wedding gowns, and often that they do get passed down to the generations and often reworked. Right. So it is a very important garment for that one great important first day of kind of a life away from your parents, a life with somebody else.
Right, and those are really legacy moments.
Exactly.
So that's a very, very important dress. And the truth is, I don't care if the woman or the young woman, is from a lot of means or very little means, somebody's going to help her get the best dress that she can possibly have. So grandma's going to put in a bit, uncle and auntie are going to put in a bit. Somebody's going to help her, you know, realize that wonderful dream of that fabulous gown.
Exactly, exactly. Moving on, you established Kevan Hall Inspiration in 2013, which are dresses and separates, going back to your sportswear roots,
Right.
for QVC in Britain. And you know, that was smart. I mean, what a great way of expanding your reach and yet still staying true to your design aesthetics.
Right. So it was all about, you know, again, taking that the beginnings of the sportswear idea, you know, bringing it forward, doing it in soft dressing, you know, beautiful tunic tops, easy, you know, pull-on pants, great sweaters, gorgeous cardigans, and that kind of thing, and a lot of prints. It was very knit driven, and we launched that collection in QVC London, and it was a runaway success. I mean, we did the first day on air, we sold out. I mean, we actually had to end the day early because there was nothing left. Nothing
Oh,
left.
well, that's
That was
good.
amazing. It was amazing. And then from that, then of course, HSE, which is another shopping channel in Italy, heard about it. So then we started doing HSE 24, and we did that for a number of years. So I had, you know, the opportunity. I was in Rome 4 times a year, which now is like, you know, Italy's my favorite spot. So I have, you know, lots of wonderful friends there, but just the opportunity to go and spend all that time in Rome and take in all that culture and all that beautiful, you know, the beautiful people and all the great food and the wine and the whole thing, amazing.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I do love travel. That is one of the things that I appreciate about my job, because we loan to institutions around the world. So, you know, we, the museum staff, have to go for installation, de-installation. And it is incredible to see the world, how it informs all of our work, your work for design, our work for what we do with exhibitions and collecting for the museum. Now, I have a question. How did you make these contacts for things like QVC and so forth? Did they contact you? Did you contact them? How did that come about?
You know, it actually came through a recommendation. You know, it's all about, you know, and I always tell, you know, students that I mentor and people that I, you know, mentor or whatever, that it's all about relationships. So you want to
Right.
just, you know, always be friendly to people, always, you know, stay in contact, always checking on people from time to time. And the recommendation for the QVC came through a relationship that I had, and she had a relationship with one of the buyers at QVC London, and that's how we, you know, kind of made that connection. They saw my portfolio. Of course, they did the research on my brand. They liked what they saw, and then we, you know, put together a packet and sent over. And they said, you know, this is exactly what we have need for this particular kind of look. We're not currently, you know, it's not in our merchandise mix right now.
I think that's such a great point because, you know, as professionals, we are always being looked at, even when we don't know we're being looked at. We're, you know, because it's somebody's like, that, you know, that's an interesting design. Let's keep an eye on Kevan Hall because maybe at some point we'll be able to bring him into whatever the company is, whatever the project is. Same thing with exhibitions. You know, we're out there all the time, and people come to us maybe 2 years later, like, you know what, I saw you posted a photo of a garment that you just acquired in the museum's collection. We're now working on an exhibition, and we'd like to borrow that from you. So you never know what somebody is seeing about you, about your designs, about your work. That's really important. And so I think it is a really great bit of advice to, you know what, even in difficult matters, just to be gracious, elegant, and as friendly as possible because you never know what might come from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And you know, as you said, you never know what might come to it, but those opportunities, sometimes you don't get those opportunities again. You know, it's and the
True.
first impression is the most important impression, and how you make a person feel, that's what they'll really remember.
Right, exactly. So we're now coming up, you know, to the end of your bio. In 2018, you co-founded the Black Design Collective, which is extraordinary and very exciting, and I have to tell you, perfectly timely. I mean, if our world today isn't showing the importance of such a group of individuals, and we're gonna go into it a little more detail, but I just wanted to kind of say that this is going to be where we're really kind of heading to in our conversation. But before that, I want to finish off your bio by just listing a few of the women you have designed over the years. And honestly, these are the recent women. So Tatiana Ali, Angela Bassett, Garcella Bouvet, Dana Delaney, and by the way, this is in alphabetical order, Celine Dion, Minnie Driver, Edie Falco, Tina Fey, Vivica Fox, Anne Hathaway, Selma Hayek, Katherine Hagel, Tajira Henson, Allison Janney, Virginia Madsen, Deborah Messing, Tina Morrow, Michelle Obama, thank you very much, Maria Shriver, Gabourey Sidibe, Sharon Stone, Charlize Theron, Vanessa Williams, Alfre Woodard, Renee Zellweger. Honestly, I could go on and on and on. Doing the research, I thought I gotta cut this way down because we don't have enough time to cover all the women that have, worn your incredible creations. And I just want to say congratulations because, not a lot of people have that kind of resume.
Yeah, that's great. Very often the actresses or whatever will circle back, for various occasions. I've developed an incredible relationship with Vanessa Williams. She's one of my favorite girls to, work with and dress. I remember doing a beautiful, beautiful gown for her for the Emmys when she was nominated for Ugly Betty. And I had this concept, you might know this story about Theater de la Mode, which was when the French made these miniature dolls to try to save couture. So I was inspired by that concept. And I kind of thumbed through the book and I came up with this beautiful gown that was inspired by it. And it was a beautiful kind of pistachio green gown that was a dégradé from tulle, tiny little caviar beads and sequins, and then it turned into fabulous feathers. So when she was nominated, I called her and I said, look, Vanessa, I've got this dress. It's a little risky. I don't know if you want to go with me on this one, but if you will, I think we can create a fashion moment. But our fear was that people were going to say, oh, she's molting, or she's a bird, she's going to fly away and take off. But she went with me on it, and it really created a moment when she stepped out of the car on the red carpet. The paparazzi went nuts, and we had a full page in the LA Times. Everybody was talking about that dress all over the world. I don't think we'd seen feathers at that point on the carpet, and since then, of course, we've seen lots of feathers. But she's one of my favorites. So it's just been a pleasure to really, connect with some of these beautiful, beautiful women.
Yeah, and it is a gamble, isn't it? I mean, your clients have to feel comfortable, first of all, functional, but also for those individuals who are out in the public eye to make a statement amongst many statements that everybody else is trying to make at the same time. And so I think, having diplomatic skills, but also persuasive skills to be able to, have somebody trust you to know that you have their best intentions to your heart to make them look the best, to stand out. And, I'm sure you have many stories along those lines over the years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just incredible. I mean, one particular actress, we put her into the dress and she got her crew or whatever together, and she walked with the crew taking photographs of her, just trying to see how the gown was going to react on the red carpet. And then when we were doing the final fitting, she just kind of like broke down into tears, and she just, because she felt so beautiful, she got on the phone and she called her mom and she said, Mom, Kevin has made me look like Grace Kelly. And her mom said, honey, I don't care if you look like Gene Kelly. We're proud. We're so proud of your nomination.
That's amazing. Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's incredible. And especially in the world that we have today, yes, there's always been the media, and, it would come out with the best dress list or the worst dress list. But now everybody instantly around the world has an opinion and has a say. And, it's difficult to sometimes navigate that. We get critiques about the exhibitions we do, and well, why don't you do this, or can you do this? And some of them are helpful. Others, we have to pass it by because we just can't accommodate somebody's request to be able to go up and touch the objects. But how do you really pay attention to a lot of that social media, or do you tend to stay away from it?
I kind of tend to stay away from it. I'll make a visit to social media and just kind of, scan a little bit, but I really don't spend a lot of time in social media. I'm really too busy doing other things. You know, we, of course, you know, we have social media person that is posting, you know, on our Instagram, on our Facebook, you know, our, you know, Twitter and all that kind of thing. So we're staying out there and being present. But for me to go in and read a lot of comments and that kind of thing, I really don't have the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just since we are in collection conversation,
Yeah.
I want to show our audience two of the Kevin Hall gowns that we have in our collection. This one is from 1988. So this is your Kevin Hall couture days. And no kidding, one of our instructors, Elizabeth Ralston, she contacted me and said, you know, I have this really incredible gown. It was one of my absolute favorite dresses to wear. You know, would you be interested in it? I said, okay, you know, why don't you bring it in? And she didn't tell me that you had designed it. And I was really excited when she brought it in and I saw that it was one of your pieces and absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to ask you two questions. Do you remember this?
I absolutely do remember that dress. That dress is called the double X gown. And that's
The
because
double,
it has the
double
two
X.
double X, because it has the two X's, one at the bust and one at the hip. And those are
Right.
Swarovski crystal lock rows and beads that are set on a tool, sort of like a raised piece of tool to give it a little bit of 3-dimension. It's a combination of silk taffeta and matte jersey in that wonderful shade of teal. We sold that dress very, very well. It was super successful. We sold it at I. Magnan's, and we sold it at, I believe, Saks Fifth Avenue. It was photographed for the Los Angeles Times by Scribninsky. And so that was a really, really big seller. So I'm glad that you have that in your collection. That's wonderful.
You know, and I did not ask Elizabeth where she bought it. I need to reach out to her to see, you know, what store that she acquired it from.
Yeah.
I'm assuming here in LA, but maybe not. So,
Right. And it's
this
for the 80s. I mean, it's a very 80s look.
very 80s, very
80s.
80s. But what's interesting is, especially with so much of fashion being cyclical, we've seen 80s, we're now seeing 90s, you know, coming back. What's exciting is that it's always new for the next generation of student designers.
Right.
Because,
exactly.
you know, for us, it's like, oh, okay, I've seen that before. But, you know, to remember that young people haven't, and so that everything is new for them and can be just as exciting for them today as it was when we first saw these pieces, when you were just bringing them right out for the first time.
And you know what, that's the challenge actually of being a designer of some length of time. I'll put it that way. Because sometimes when you think about things, you think, well, I've already done that, or I've already seen that, I already know that. But you know, you have to also realize and kind of step back from it and say, well, not everybody has seen it and knows it. And not everybody knows it because not everybody has been around or interested in fashion as long as you have. So you kind of have to play, you know, kind of play the devil's advocate even while you're developing collections.
Right, to be able to kind of step outside of your knowledge, because somebody else may not have that, and to then bring that back to them. You know, and especially for the two of us, because you and I both love fashion history and the haute couture, that kind of very high-end dressmaking, going back to the, you know, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s. You and I are very much in awe of that. We've had conversations about it before when you and I had a live Q&A at the Annenberg Center. I think it was about 10 years ago. And we reveled in one of our favorite muses, who was Millicent Rogers, who was one of the great American couture clients. So, you know, and to be able to bring that essence back to design, because my philosophy is great design is always great, no matter what the period is, or if it's in or out of fashion at the moment, because it will always come back.
I agree. You know, and when you talk about quality, and when you talk about this level of skill and the make of something, you know, that's something that really does stand the test of time. But I have an interesting question that I want to ask you in terms of like curation and that kind of thing. I was thinking that when you look at a piece is not necessarily the most fashionable piece, or is it that it was the piece that survived that period? Does that make any sense?
Yes, very, very good question. We grapple with that all the time when we're contemplating collecting, because especially for the older pieces, all we have is what has survived. We can't go back in time and pick and choose like, oh, we need to have this and this and this because these are important. No, it's just what has survived. And then looking at more contemporary dress, because there is so much more of it, that we have to filter out what we think is going to be of interest down the road, but also we have to balance it out with money, because not everything is donated. You have donated to us, Elizabeth donated, and we really appreciate that. But if we had to go out and buy the objects, we may not be able to afford them, but also storage. You know, I can't have a lot of the same kind of garment because if it's represented, it fills a niche. We got to look at having a very broad range of pieces. So it's difficult for the museum field as well to be able to filter out. And like you, with quality, when it comes to design and workmanship, we too look at quality. That's for me the most important. Concentrate on quality and let quantity take care of itself, because over time you keep accumulating. So absolutely, that's an important thing for us. Now I want to go into our second garment. Aha! This one is, this is our latest acquisition by you, which you kindly donated. Thank you very much. Right. The only thing is, do you remember the year?
I don't remember the year off the top of my head, but I don't remember.
Oh, I was hoping you would. Oh, so it would be really great when you are going through your archives to keep this dress in mind, so that at some point you can let us know what date this was. I feel really bad not knowing it, and we're dating it roughly 2000 to 2010.
Yeah, but somewhere in there, because I think I've had several incarnations in my career. You know, I had the Kevan Hall Couture, which I had for 11 years, and then I went to to New York, and I designed for Halston, and I worked in London for a bit, and I worked, then I worked in. I mean, I've had different incarnations, but this particular dress came after I moved back to Los Angeles and relaunched the Kevan Hall Signature Collection. So you're right; it's probably going to be, early 2000s, mid 2000s, somewhere in there.
Okay, yeah. Well, good. I'm glad we were. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Because that's another thing for us is that we are always trying to gather together the information about the objects that we acquire, because it's really important to pass that information on to those next generations so that they can place the garments historically to then know why something came about, why you chose this ombre chiffon, draping, a garment that you looked at historically. Maybe it was, do you remember the influence that you had for this?
It could have been Jean Duce.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
It could have been, Madame Gray, either one of those, but more likely Duce, who trained Valentino how to do that same kind of ruching and draping. I have a love for ruching. I don't do it very much now because it is, very, very time consuming and very expensive to do, but I do love it. And I also have a weakness for ombre. I mean, anything ombre, I'm sold.
Right. I love ombre as well. Yeah. I always thought of myself as an ombre. Bad joke. Bad joke. Bad joke. Okay. So, I have a list of questions here, but we've actually kind of gone through a lot of this. And, quickly, who are some of your favorite designers, historically or modern? So you've already named a few, I know.
I've named a few. So I mentioned Vionnet. I mentioned Jean Duce. But Vionnet is also another favorite because of the wonderful kind of bias cut, the inventor of the bias cut, the simplicity of line, the beautiful placement of style lines in order to achieve the cut or achieve the drape and the flow. Love Vionnet. And then YSL, of course, as I explained, and then Halston, again, for that wonderful, clean line cut, who was also inspired by Charles James, which is a surprise because Halston looks nothing like Charles James, but, they were friends. And there was that influence, with some of those pieces that did not have seaming and some of those pieces that kind of wrapped and spiraled that was, you know, a James influence. I mean, there's so many great designers. And what I
Right.
say to, you know, again, people that I mentor or students that I will speak to, you know, if you want to do jeans, if you want to do hip hop, if you want to do, you know, streetwear, whatever you want to do, you must at least know what the root of fabulous fashion is. So always kind of look back, do your research, go to museums, you know, when you can go to stores or vintage stores, turn things inside out.
Right.
Where you can, at a museum you can't touch, but at a vintage shop you can. So there's just so much wealth of information and so much beauty there, which I think some is lacking now, but that's another topic. I digress. Um,
Bring it back, Kevin. Bring it back. So I want to spend the second half of our hour together talking about the Black Design Collective and how this came about. I have a wonderful photo here of you with Ruth Carter, seen right here,
right.
who I'm going to have you introduce because she is an extraordinary person.
Right. So
Angela Dean right here, and TJ Walker right here.
Right,
So can you please talk about your friends? I'm going to move over a little.
Yeah.
Talk about your friends here and also the extraordinary group that you have put together. And I want to know why.
Right. So I'll start just as you did with Ruth Carter. So Ruth Carter for so many years has been working in the film and costume business. She is one of the premier costume designers. She has more than 40 credits or 40, you know, movies to her credit, and her body of work is very, very extensive. She has influenced, you know, the culture through the movies that she's done. Selma, worked with Spike Lee extensively on so many films, and won an Oscar for the Black Panther. Phenomenal, phenomenal. Then we have Angela Dean, who is a celebrity designer. She has worked with Patti LaBelle. She's worked with the late Nancy Wilson. She has done so many incredible dresses that have been seen on the carpet. And also Angela has influenced and put together the looks of entertainers, you know, working with music labels and that kind of thing. So she has been a go-to person for creating the image of entertainers. And then TJ Walker, phenomenal designer, is one of the founders of the brand Cross Colors. And Cross Colors actually has an exhibit currently at the Cannes Museum, the California African American Museum. Right. And which is extended through, I think through December. Once the museum reopens, people will be able to go in and look at that phenomenal exhibit. Right. But he was one of the forerunners of street fashion, along with his partner, and they came together and shifted. You know, every now and then there's a shift in fashion, and TJ was at the precipice of the shift. And that's my gang.
So famous for dressing many of the late 1980s into the early 1990s. Music industry, big time music industry, singers. Also a lot on the television, especially like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, really fantastic designs. And Kevin, I just have you to know that Christina sent me a Cross Colors pair of pants that I think we're going to be acquiring, so to add to our collection. They're really great. We haven't seen this pattern before. We've seen it in a jacket, but not as a pants, so we're really interested in it. So it's interesting that you asked that question for me about collecting, because you know we do collect up to the minute, and including designs like for Cross Colors. I mean, it's super important to have such a broad range, you know, of Kevan Hall gowns to cross color, you know, hip hop clothes.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and that's the world of fashion. You know, there's classifications of fashion. You know, so it's important to have that represented in your collection, as well as for people to be able to see, you know, things that maybe they hadn't been exposed to before.
Exactly. And and I love it to see the influences of design, where they come from. The word appropriation has been used a lot, and it's a very serious topic to discuss, but it's also something that the arts, uses the world and the beauty of design and great design. As I mentioned, great design is always great design, no matter where it comes from or when it comes from. And, artists such as yourself are going to pick up on beauty and morph it into something that speaks for today. So I think that's interesting, such as Cross Colors brand, or you talking about referencing Jean de Sasse, in the 50s couture, but doing it in a different way that speaks for our own time.
Right.
So speaking of design, the point of the Black Design Collective is to help the next generation of designers, artists going into the field so that they could have some financial support, but also connections, as you mentioned earlier, being extremely important no matter what field you want to go into, is to get yourself known, but also to get to know everybody else, because you don't know how those connections can come about. And I have to say that FIDM and the FIDM Museum are very, very, very proud that last April, we were able to host at the FIDM Museum right outside our galleries the very first Black Design Collective Gala. And here you can see you and Angela Dean and Ruth and TJ, but also right in the center here, Deborah Monet Hickman, who was now a FIDM graduate, and at this time, he was the very first recipient of the scholarship that actually honors Ruth Carter, and with a very nice, healthy $10,000.
Yes, we were so excited. Well, first of all, let me just say that, Tony and Hoberg, the president of the school, and certainly Barbara Bundy have been so supportive of the Black Design Collective. There is, anytime we go to them with any type of idea, they will listen, they will hear what we are proposing, and if there's any way that they can help us, they come alongside us and help, and they've been so phenomenal. So we came to Ms. Hoberg with this concept of the Black Design Collective, what we were doing. We were already an organization, but we wanted to honor Ruth, and we also wanted to give back to a student and to try to help someone, because we have found that very often African American students, maybe they don't have the finances to be able to attend the college, or maybe they don't have they have to work several jobs. Like in the case of DeVer, he had 3 jobs. He was getting straight A's. He was doing all this work and wanted just to have an opportunity to maybe step back from working all these jobs and just maybe to focus on his skill and focus on his studies. He wanted to go into the 3rd year program. He even had a GoFundMe page. So it was like when we saw the need there, we said, how could we not give him this scholarship? And he has gone through the program with flying colors. And it was our pleasure to have Ruth give him, to pass off to him that scholarship. We said, Ruth, you're going to pass him the mantle, not the Oscar. He'll have to get his own. But you can pass him the mantle for the next generation of talented Black designers in costume.
Yeah, he graduated in fashion design, and then he has now, as you mentioned, since graduated in the advanced program for theater costume design.
Right.
So it is phenomenal that you had the foresight to really see a need and to be able to gather together a group of individuals whom you've known over many decades now to pull together not only resources, because, we can all donate, but it's also time. And, when we're all very busy people, we have lots of projects, we have lots of deadlines, but to make time for these new emerging artists, that really is important, that mentoring, the internships that are offered, because, it doesn't stop with $1. That gets, spent really quickly, as in the industry that is a very expensive industry to work within. So
Right.
having that ability to learn from people who have been in the industry a long time is truly invaluable.
Yeah, and one of the things that we are doing, and we're telling our members, particularly, let's say, for instance, our costume members, we charge them to, okay, here's the bearer. He now is graduated. What projects are you working on where you can help bring him in? The same thing with
Right.
our designers. As our designers are, that are members, as they, go up the ladder of success, as they have opportunities and they work for big brands, or as they start their own businesses, reach back and pull some of these young people up that are, trying to get a foothold in the industry. It's very, very important.
Absolutely. And, I feel the same way about the museum industry. It's kind of odd to me. I mean, this is my 25th year in my chosen field, and I feel very, very blessed to have had such a marvelous career. And the FIDM Museum is such an incredible place to work. I mean, I love being at a museum that is also a design institution. They just go hand in hand so well, and to always feel supported, in all of the different endeavors that we try to do. But at the same time, to have students, high school students, even sometimes contacting us saying, oh, I'm really interested in this. How did you get involved? Or, what can I do to study more? Or, resources and all of that. And I think, wow, I can't believe somebody would come to me to ask these things. But then, you know what? I was doing the same thing 25 years ago when I was just getting started. And one of the philosophies that we have with the FIDM Museum is just what you described, is that, when a young person contacts us, we always try to answer. We try to be there. We try to give some positive reinforcement, some positive direction, because it's you never know who the next person is going to be and how it's going to truly affect their lives, that do great things, such as you with 40 years of design, Ruth Carter with an Academy Award. And we have to acknowledge the very first African-American ever to win that award. And I have to say, she loaned it to us, to the museum, for our Hollywood costume exhibition, because we had Black Panther costumes in the gallery last year, and we always like to bring back the Oscar-winning costumes, and so we have them right center front when you enter the gallery. But it was great that she actually loaned her Academy Award, because this is a precious thing, and
Absolutely.
it just helps to inspire the next generation. You mentioned our beloved director, Barbara Bundy. Hello, Barbara.
Yes.
And here she is with Devert at the awards last April. And he, of course, was the winner. And it was really exciting to have him be with us that evening to have this incredible honor. And it will be interesting to see what his career is going to be like, and 20 years from now. And Kevin, you and I both know how fast 20 years goes. To see what it is he's then able to do for the generation that's just being born right now, who will be going into design.
Right. I have a lot of high hopes for him. I think he'll do extremely well. He has a wonderful, wonderful work ethic. He's very, very focused. He lives and breathes costume design. So I think it was really great that we were able to support him, and he was able to go into the third, into the advanced studies.
Now, how exactly did the collectives, the concept come about for the collective? Were you sitting at home with Angela Dean and TJ and say, hey, or were you at an event? Did a student come up to you and say, I'm really interested in this field. I don't know how to get into it. I mean, how exactly did the concept happen?
It was really more like what you originally said. It came about through conversations. Angela called me one day and she said to me, I just read an article where $1.4 trillion of money is being spent in the African American community, and that money is going out of our community. We need to think about how we can capture some of those funds to keep the funds in the community. We need to think about how we can help design students to get involved in fashion. We need to think about our community as a whole, how we can support designers, raise the awareness of Black designers, and raise the awareness of Black talent in America and globally. So that was kind of the idea. How can we raise our profile? So often, in the industry, I find it to be sometimes very insular. And, we're, as African Americans, are always, not always, but very often, we are not, let into certain companies, sitting at the table, making decisions about marketing and branding and design. And that's why I also think, you have major faux pas like, a Gucci or a Prada will make, because at those tables is not a representative of various kind of nationalities. So they kind of stumble, and then they have to fall on the sword and go back and apologize and make things right when they have not really reached out and embraced cultures. So it really came about by us just kind of hanging out at my atelier here where I'm sitting right now, and just talking and enjoying each other's company. And it just kind of evolved, and the conversation evolved into a real concept that we actually wrote down, and then we started to put action plan behind it. And now we sit with the Black Design Collective about a year and a half, almost 2 years in, and we've done some really, really powerful things in these 2 years.
Exactly. What are the goals that you hope to achieve, 5 years, 10 years, but, let's look into the future. What are those goals? Because, the Black Design Collective, it's imperative that it's around, 20, 30, 40 years from now. So many people have ideas and don't necessarily understand what it takes to do the governance, all of that paperwork, that core paperwork that you need to do, the mission statement and so forth. And then to gather together all the people that actually have to do the physical work. What are the goals for the Black Design Collective in years to come?
Right. So I would say the first thing, as I mentioned before, is to really raise the relevancy or show the relevancy and raise the profile of Black design talent, to put into action programs and things that will cause the industry's doors to open to hire, promote Black talent, to create a platform, an e-commerce platform whereby people can find designers, Black designers, and purchase. The bottom line is to enable the designer to be able to have a viable company to support their families and to build a strong business as well. We want to, we do workshops and that kind of thing so that we can let people, be able to, how do you navigate, the new retail landscape? How do you navigate, the crazy, ever-changing social media world? So it's everything that is relevant to design. We want to be able to establish a pathway and guide, designers and future designers a way to achieve their dreams and their goals.
So it's kind of headquartered out here in Los Angeles. Do you hope to maybe have chapters throughout the United States or throughout the world?
Right. It's interesting that you say that. One of the things that we have done, we started a workshop, a funding workshop, in order to during this COVID crisis, people are kind of struggling and people are trying to figure out how they're going to manage their business and stay in business. So we've created a funding workshop where we've helped designers be able to navigate, the PPP program, SBA loans, all the private funding, unemployment for those that, need to get unemployment, all these things. And by doing that, we've had people come on board from Atlanta, from Chicago, from New York, so much so that we've actually started a fundraising workshop every Thursday for the New York time schedule. And from that, we've had inquiries for people that want us to now open up chapters. I just spoke to someone a couple of days ago that wants us to open up a chapter or wants to lead up our chapter in Atlanta. And of course, we have people in, like I said, in New York, like Constance White, who is a former Essence magazine editor, former New York Times fashion director or fashion editor, she's penned 2 fabulous books. She's on our board of directors, and she is going to be instrumental in helping us bring together the design community in New York as well. So absolutely, we plan on expanding our mission, not only in the United States, but also globally.
I mean, it's not just glamorous, is it? I mean, all the things
It's
that
work.
you just listed are reality. That's real life, working in the design world, whether you have your own company, you're working for another company, you're in the fashion industry, you're in the movie costume design industry. You know, glamour is what? 5%, and the rest of it is a lot of work that does not get lauded, does not get even seen, you know, because you put on such a very beautiful presentation, but what it takes to get there. So I just want to say personally, thank you for doing that, for allowing the FIDM Museum and the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising to be a part of it, because, you know, it really just fits our mission statements just spot on. And I'm amazed that it wasn't something that was thought of, you know, honestly, years ago, that we're not already talking about, oh, 20 years of the Black Design Collective. But at the same time, you know, there's the kind of things that you can't necessarily describe why things come about necessarily when they do. It's kind of like fashion. Why, I get asked all the time, why were there bustles? Why were there hoop skirts? You know, it's like, we don't know. It's that fashion zeitgeist. And it's the same thing that I think the fantastic collective that you've put together have really tapped into the zeitgeist of things that are needed desperately. And our current situation with the pandemic, with the Black Lives Matter movement, plays into absolutely spot on. So I just want to say congratulations.
Well, thank you, thank you. It's been, you know, it's been a great project that we've taken on, and we have, you know, lots of good things that we are, you know, planning, and how we want to grow the company, or grow, that's not the company, but grow the organization. We are a nonprofit. So, you know, we've had the wonderful support of our sponsors like AT&T and Lexus, and, you know, so many great sponsors that have come alongside us, and they see the need for the diversity and the inclusion and the education portion of it. And that's what we want to do. We want to help, you know, fill that void and help to provide the education for, you know, designers and all the affiliates, because it's just not designers in our organization. It's all those things that come together to support the designer. Like we have the costumers. We also have photographers, hair and makeup artists, you know, manufacturers, fabric suppliers, all those things that make the designer's dream come true. They're a part of our organization. So it's a wonderful, wonderful group that's working in tandem to bring about some change.
Well, we are all about education, and I thank you for that. And the future, the future, the future.
Yes.
We have to leave it there. Our time is up. It goes by very fast, but I want to thank you again, Kevan Hall. Thank you from Kevin Jones.
Yes, thank you.
And you know, I really look forward to seeing you again on campus. You know, come in and do some more research in our collections. But I also want to say thank you to our viewers for tuning in today. And of course, this will be put out on our social media, the FIDM Museum social media. So it can play again and again into the future, and hopefully continue to inspire and inform. So thank you again, Kevin, and thank you
so much, Kevin. Thank you. God bless. Take care.
Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.